Hey, welcome back. It's me again, your girl Melanin Audacity, and thank you for watching. We made it to part 3. Thank you so much for all your support. Um, Again, you see the red button, subscribe button, push that, click it. And then once you click it, the button next to it with the little bell on it that says notifications. I'm sorry, it don't say nothing. It's just a bell. Just click it anyway. That way, you'll be notified when I upload new videos directly to your cell phone, your email, however you decide or determine you'll get those notifications. But you have to set that up in your YouTube account or through your Google account, or just check back every couple of weeks or so. Anyway, we made it to part 3 that I promised, and this is part 3 of, I'm not even sure how many it's going to be because I am still doing the ninth and 10th generation, and it took me 3 videos to do it. So this is the third and final installation of the ninth and 10th generation. Like I said in the first video, I represent the 14th generation. So I haven't even gotten to my generation yet. So this is just the ninth and 10th generation. And in this video, we're going to look at um, what happened, what historical events happened during my great grandparents, of my ninth and 10th generation great grandparents' lives. Um, what happened? So I've been promising you that in 2 videos. Now I'm getting to it. So let's get started. Again, I need to share my video. Give me a second. Let me share. Un momento, darling. Un momento. Un momento. Un momento. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. This is your girl Melanin Audacity. I had to split this video into 2 parts due to the length. It was nearly an hour long. Please check the description box for the link to part 1. Here, I'm going to continue to cover the key historic events in my family history series for my ninth and 10th generation. And as always, thank you for your support. Now back to the closing of part episode 3. Not part 1, but just episode 3. Thanks. Thank you for your support. So I'm not sure if many of you knew that there was a civil rights movement in 1866. It defined citizenship and affirmed that all citizens are equally protected by the law. And as a result, the mass of Southern Blacks now faced the difficulty Northern Blacks had confronted, that of a free people surrounded by many hostile whites. Even after the Emancipation Proclamation, 2 more years of war, service by Black American troops, and the defeat of the Confederacy, the nation was still unprepared to deal with the question of full citizenship for its newly freed Black population. How in the hell is there a question regarding citizenship when Black Americans have been enslaved for generations, for more than 247 years? Like, really? Just as long as white people and longer than European immigrants who purchased tickets. Shaking my head. This is the perspective that I'm bringing to the telling of history. We got to wake up. My ninth generation great grandparents were very young children at this time, roughly 5 and 6 years old. S and Sarah O'Bannon. It is possible that Sarah was born in 1865. Um, I don't have a date. My maternal, so this is my mother's side, 10th generation great grandparents, Jane and London. Remember, I talked about London, loving that name, Barnett, were 12 and 8 years old at this time. Kippy, which is my great grandmother's father, and my great grandmother, they weren't even born yet at this point. Moving on, but if you knew about the civil rights movement of 1866, let me know what you know about it in the comment section. I'd like to read more if you have any information. Again, this is interactive. You if I'm saying something and you feel that it is not right and you have something to contradict or show a different perspective, drop the link, email me, send me the link, send me the information. But right now, this is what I got. So moving on to after the Civil War, post Civil War, in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which I also mentioned, I believe, in the first video. So after the Civil War and with the protection of the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment in 1868, which addressed citizenship rights and equal protection under the law, and the 15th Amendment of 1870 granted Black American men the right to vote. So we didn't even get to the point where women start getting rights and stuff. So we're still at the point where Black men are just being able to vote. And then again, they had the loopholes that I mentioned before about, literacy, poll taxes, and things of that nature, so that they couldn't vote anyway. So, with these amendments to the Constitution and the Civil Rights Act of 1866, African Americans enjoyed a period where they were allowed to vote, actively participate in the political process, acquire the land of former owners, seek their own employment, and use public accommodations, although separate, right? Because we not even up to where the white only, black only bathrooms even began. So that's going to be in the subsequent generation, which is why I'm trying to make this series of videos and bringing in the historical aspect of uh how America evolved to where we are now and from what, right? Opponents of this progress, however, soon rallied against the former slaves' freedom and began to find means for eroding the gains for which they had shed their blood. Uh, uh, Hence Rosewood and the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre and the dismantling of the Black Wall Street, etc., etc., etc. George Floyd. You understand? So, Jane Barrett, my great great grandmother, was 11. London was 7. My great grandparents. Um, oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong, but you know what I'm saying. Those are my great grandparents. Imagine being a child during these times of hate. Imagine constantly being in fear that at any time a white person can come in your house, snatch you out, and stab you up, or string you up in a tree, drag you behind a horse carriage, throw you in the water, or just any evil, vile, vicious thought they come up with, split you open, whatever, feed you to the dogs. Just come in your house and nobody would do anything. It wasn't even against the law. We didn't even get to when the law came in. You understand? So we have to have a full understanding of how all this stuff has affected our people throughout time. Because I'm not saying there are not books out there that does this, but this is my perspective. I don't want to have any influence before the fact. This is me doing some research, um, and then with that research coming to you with the information from my perspective. It's too painful to be reading all these books about this stuff over and over. That's why it took me a year to get to these videos, you understand? And I didn't want to end up crying, but it is very sad to me. But let me keep moving on to the Reconstruction Era. The Reconstruction Era, implemented by Congress, which lasted from 1866 to 1877, which was the period after the American Civil War, which was an important contingency for freedom according to the Emancipation Proclamation. for the slaves who made it to the northern and loyalist southern states to serve in the war. However, and to be clear, it was the 13th Amendment that emancipated all US slaves wherever they were. Because, like I said, the Emancipation Proclamation initially was you was free if you was in a Confederate state, but you still was a slave if you was in New York. Girl, bye. Anyway, the Reconstruction era was aimed at reorganizing the Southern states after the Civil War, providing means for readmitting them into the Union and defining the means by which whites and blacks could live together in a non-slave society. They hadn't even thought about the possibility of having to live, intermingle, work with, work for, eat with, go to the bathroom with, fly on a plane with. They had not even had the thought in their minds. We were always going to be slaves as far as they were concerned. And in those Confederate states' minds, they still feel, believe, and are trying to make that happen, in my opinion, you know? Um, so they had never considered any contingencies for us to be free, and now they had to define how whites and blacks could live together in a non-slave society. The South, however, saw Reconstruction as a humiliating, even vengeful imposition and did not welcome it. And this hatred is why racism has transcended time, because these feelings of hate have been passed along generation to generation. There is also an era where Black scholars emerged, such as the Black congressmen of Reconstruction, made up of former slaves and freedmen, elected into Congress at one point, but their stint was short lived. It's funny how our organizations are always disbanded, but groups like the KKK and all these new militia and radical racist groups that have emerged are fully functional and up and running. Just look at what happened on January 6th, 2021 in Sir excuse me, good lord, insurrection, an act banned by the 14th Amendment granting US citizenship and equal protection under the law. I wonder why it is associated with this particular amendment. I'll definitely be having an episode about this. But for now, let's look at how it all started. This is also an era where Black scholars emerged, such as the Black congressmen of Reconstruction, made up of former slaves and freedmen, elected into Congress at one point, but their stint was short lived. It's funny how our organizations are always disbanded, but groups like the KKK and all these new militia and radical racist groups have emerged and are fully functional and up and running. Just look at what happened on January 6th, 2021. Insurrection, which is an act banned by the 14th Amendment, the same amendment that grants us citizenship and equal protection under the law. I wonder why insurrection is associated with this particular amendment. I'll definitely be having an episode about this, but for now, let's look at how it all started. Yes, I'm going there. I'm going all the way there. In Pulaski, Tennessee, a group of Confederate veterans convenes to form a secret society that they christen. the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK rapidly grew from a secret social fraternity to a paramilitary force bent on reversing the federal government's progressive Reconstruction era activities in the South, especially policies that elevated the rights of the local Black American population. The name Ku Klux Klan was derived from the Greek word kleikos, meaning circle, and the Scottish Gaelic word clan, which was probably chosen for the sake of alliteration. Under a platform of philosophized white racial superiority, the group employed violence as a means of pushing back Reconstruction and its enfranchisement of Black Americans. Former Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was the KKK's first Grand Wizard in 1869. He unsuccessfully tried to disband it after he, grew critical of the Klan's excessive violence. Most prominent in counties where the races were relatively equal in number, the KKK engaged in terrorist raids against Black Americans and white Republicans at night, employing intimidation, destruction of property, assault, and murder to achieve its aims and to influence upcoming elections. Things change, but things stay the same. In a few southern states, Republicans organized militia units to break up the Klan. In 1871, the Ku Klux Klan Act passed in Congress, authorizing President Ulysses S. Grant to use military force to suppress the KKK. How'd that work out? They still around. This was, excuse me, what did I say? 1871 and it's 2021. How many years is that? Put that in the comments. 1871 to 2021. The Ku Klux Klan Act, uh, where he authorized military force to suppress the KKK. When they gonna get to work? Is my question. Would they still figuring out who gonna be on that team? The Ku Klux Klan Act resulted in 9 South Carolina counties being placed under martial law and thousands of arrests. Oh, maybe they did, but really. In 1882, the US Supreme Court declared the Ku Klux Klan Act unconstitutional. But by that time, Reconstruction had ended and the KKK receded for the time being. I just got to shake my head. I can't. Now we're moving on to European immigration. So I have a few more slides. This video may be 45, 50 minutes, maybe an hour. Um, but you can watch it up to the point and then you come back to it and catch up. But I got to get this done in one shot too. But the reason I wanted to incorporate European immigration because I'm tired of hearing people saying to us, go back where you came from or go back to Africa. You understand? So now I'm about to arm y'all with how to respond to them. Okay, so that's the point. 1492 to 1820 was the mass, European settlement in of I didn't mean to say settlement, European immigration. So 1492 to 1820. It's a long time. European settlement and diseases devastated indigenous populations and led to a scramble for lands on a continental scale that resulted in a checkerboard of Euro American societies from northern Canada to the southern tip of South America. From Atlantic ports of Europe, mainly Britain, Spain, and Portugal, wave after wave of settlers, rich and poor, took ship seeking their fortune beyond the seas. It's probably how they had it on the ads over there. Oh, come to America, live out your dreams beyond the seas. They ain't, that's not how we got here. We ain't buy no ticket. We ain't asked to come here. First of all, let's be clear. I digress. Approximately 206 million Europeans compared to 8.8 million enslaved Africans. That's a lie. I read in one book that there was 100 slaves to one white man back in them times. So here's a side note. I've always wondered why the slaves never fought back when they outnumbered white people more than 100 to 1. And I will have a video on this soon, but I digress because there's a whole lot to unpack on this subject. Moving on with immigration. Across this period, of this immigration period, that is, slightly less than half of all migrants were British at 40%. Spanish and Portuguese were 6%. Swiss and German were 5%. And then they had some French people in there, I guess, whatever the remaining. Another side note, look at all the architecture of homes and old buildings. It's easy to identify their influence, not to mention cuisine and etc. Right? That's another aspect that I'll identify uh, in subsequent videos. The Dutch, Swedish, Danish, Finnish, although contributing to the heterogeneity of Euro American society, were negligible, meaning there wasn't a lot of them, but they came. They bought a ticket. At the beginning of the rise of immigration and nearly 12 million, I'm sorry, at the beginning of the rise of immigration, nearly 12 million immigrants arrived in the US between 1870 and 1900. 250 years after the first slave on record came to the US and European influence. So again, I was already here when you bought your ticket. So how you gonna tell me to go back where I came from? Okay, don't. I ain't finished. Let me go on. 1870s to 1880s, the vast majority of these people were from Germany, Ireland, and England, and were the principal sources of immigration before the Civil War. Those from Europe entered via East Coast, and Asian immigrants entered via the West Coast. And I think there are more Asians on the West Coast than we have on the East Coast, and now we understand why. However, more than 70% of all immigrants entered via New York City's Ellis Island, aka the Golden Door. We came in on some bootleg shit down in Charleston at the port, just threw you up on the girl, this stuff be bugging me out. Anyway, during the height of European immigration and the Industrial Revolution, 14 years after slavery was abolished in 1851 to 1900, or and 232 years after the first slave arrived in America, where people in many parts of the world left their homes fleeing crop failure, land and job shortages, rising taxes, and famine. So you bought a ticket, you stowed away, you came on your own accord, but you was escaping your own land for these reasons. You understand what I'm saying? Like they forgot to tell all about that. They didn't just come for the golden door. They was escaping from where they're from, where they came from, to come here to then turn around and tell us to go back where we came from. Ain't that a bitch? Anyway, excuse my French. I know my nephews are watching. Hey, Kaya and Nigel. Anyway, moving on. Where was I? Again, many came to the US because it was perceived as a land of economic opportunity. Others came seeking personal freedom or relief from political and religious persecution. So, miss me with that. I wish somebody would. I really do. I wish somebody would say that to me. I know they say it to other people. Somebody say, blah, blah. I cannot wait, honey. Now you should be armed with that too. Oh, go back where I came from. Oh, and then drop it on them, hurt their feelings. Some of them so stupid they don't even know that that's why. Except the Jews, they'll let you know the Holocaust was and then that's gonna be a whole. I'm gonna do tit for tat, slavery versus the Holocaust, my style. Let's move on. I got two more videos, and I'm at about 40 minutes right now. So, in a nutshell, this war was about groups of people in power taking advantage of other groups of people by taking their land and those who fought to keep their independence from them. That's all it was in a nutshell. 70 million military um, troops, 60 million were European. They had 9 million soldiers die, 13 million civilians. The war resulted in genocide, and the 1918 influenza pandemic caused another 17 to 100 million deaths worldwide. Things change and things stay the same. The cause of the war was blamed on a young Bosnian man who assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Austria and his wife. Claims that young Bosnians were manipulated by terrorist organizations, Black Hand, an organization similar to what Al Qaeda is today. 300,000 Black Americans served in segregated units, mostly as support troops. So wait a minute, goddamn, hold on. So they served in the war, but they were the support troops. What that mean? They were serving the food and getting raped by the soldiers and stuff. What kind of support? I don't understand that. Nurses, I know that's some with nurses and stuff, but I need, I got to get into that more. Several units saw action alongside French soldiers fighting against German. So those are the blacks. 171 Black Americans were awarded French Legion of Honor. Several hundred Black Americans received officers training in Des Moines, Iowa. By 1917, over 600 were commissioned as captains and first and second lieutenants. So I guess that's good, I'm assuming. 600 versus how many million was white? 70 million? I'm sorry, 60 million was European and only 171, oh, I'm sorry, 171 awarded the French Legion of Honor and only 600 commissioned that captain was 60 million, 70 million military staff. Okay, thank you. All right. So it is my conclusion that this war was manipulated by untrustworthy men in power and cost the lives of thousands for financial gain. Things change and things stay the same. Well, guys, that's it for part two. Join me next time when I will cover my 11th generation, finally up to the 11th generation, great grandparents and the things that were happening when they were alive. Some of the events again overlap, so I will focus on new events as I move through time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and share with your family and friends. And don't forget, leave those comments as we go through. Thank you again. Thanks for watching. Let me stop sharing so I can kick it with you real quick and close out. Again, my my intention for these videos, I hope it's coming to light for you now that you see and understand what I'm doing and how I am looking to present just this family history video. Now I'm moving to the 11th generation, and depending on how much information that I uncover, I may be able to do that in maybe 2 parts, 3 parts, or whatever. But I wanted to at least get the ninth and 10th generation done. So this is the conclusion of the ninth and 10th generation. My next video, I'm going to start with the 11th generation, part 1, and however many parts I need to get through the 11th generation. And remember, I'm the 14th generation, so I'm going to be at this for a minute. But I am so happy that you guys took the time, these 48, 50 minutes to actually watch the whole thing, whether it took you one sitting or you watched it over time. Please leave your comments. Let's have some conversation and share with your children. I try not to use profanity for that purpose. Um, so that you can share it with your kids, sit down and see how they feel about it and make sure that they understand. And if I have presented anything that was incorrect, then blame it on the Library of Congress, which is where I got all this information from. I'll put those links also in the description box so that you can start your own research and find and come to your own conclusion. It will be fun to speak with you. If you want to come on with me on a topic, email me, and then we can do a show together. I really want to do it that way anyway. All right, well, I'm moving on. It's already too long. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos. Subscribing does not cost anything. I know that may, make people nervous, but it's free. You can subscribe. That just means that you are interested in the content that I am creating, and that the notification bell will notify you when I put a new video up. Like I said, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I feel like I'm leaving out something. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I guess this is YouTube, because I don't do TikTok. I ain't ready for all that. I got too much going on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.